Palila are the last what we call finch-billed honey creeper in the main Hawaiian Islands. But Palila don't really drink nectar. They primarily eat the green seed pods of the mamane tree. And they're particularly going after the seeds inside. Mamane seeds are incredibly toxic. Like they're super, super poisonous, but because Palila have evolved for the last 3 to 5 million years to live with and live only on mamane, they're resistant to the poison, so they can eat it and it doesn't have any negative impact on them. They're our largest honey creeper left in the main Hawaiian Islands, so they're the biggest one. They can get up to like 30-40 grams. They're really beautiful birds. They have a bright yellow head, kind of really interesting gray colors throughout, long tail, long wings. They're known for like covering large areas. So like one bird can travel miles in a single day. But in general, they kind of like, they have like roost trees where they'll come back and sleep in the same tree every night kind of thing. They're pretty susceptible to predators, so particularly feral cats and rats. And barn owls have had a pretty big impact on them over time. And unfortunately, their population has really declined over the last several years. So previously, Palila could be found from the slopes of Mauna Loa and Hualalai all the way up to the complete around Mauna Kea. Now they're only found on one little small patch on the south west side of Mauna Kea. Yeah, and their population in 2016 was like about 1,500 birds. As of this year, we think there's around 300 birds. Yeah, so they've really declined over the last couple of years, and it's probably due to predators, but there's also a lot of other threats that we just don't really have a good handle on. And then the big thing that reduced their population originally was loss of habitat. So like Palila are like I said, 90% of their food comes from mamane, and mamane forest just got hit really, really hard early on, particularly by the introduction of sheep. And mamane takes a really long time to grow. So like because like Palila have a preference for trees that are over 2 meters in height, and in order for a tree to reach that, they have to be growing for at least 30 years. At least on Mauna Kea. In other places, they do grow quite a bit faster, but unfortunately, we don't have Palila in those areas. Once we introduce invasive grasses, and then like 90+% of fires in Hawaii are caused by humans, and so like a lot of those fires, so like we introduce the grasses, and then also the spark elements, so then we really increase the amount of fire here. And so that has probably been our biggest individual impact on habitat. Then the other one has been just the species that we've brought with us. And then today, like it still kind of continues, just because there is a lot of issues with like vandalism on the fences that are protecting Palila habitat. Like pretty much every month the fence is cut, and so they're just always letting animals back in. And like I get it, like people want to have hunting opportunity and Palila, but it's like Palila just need one little small area. Palila was the first animal plaintiff in a U.S. court of law. And then I would say that there's also a positive impact. Today, like there's been a lot of predator control work, and more people are aware and looking for Palila and care about Palila. And so I think that's kind of a big one where, like even though we've had all these negative impacts, like without us, Palila are doomed. With us, they can survive. So I think that's something that's worth noting. And right now, what's happening is they're putting in a whole bunch of traps to try to like create a safe space by using traps, just to like knock down rats and cats and mongoose. Yeah, and then the other thing we're really worried about this year is in El Nino periods, typically Mauna Kea is much drier, and at least for the next 2 years, it's predicted to be drier conditions, and so that could be pretty tough on Palila. So we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on the habitat. Maybe even thinking about trying to bring some like water catchment or something, just to try to provide water for some really important mamane areas. Yeah, the Mauna Kea Forest Restoration Project is kind of the biggest one. And then, that's pretty much it. There's been some like work with Ileahi up there, but it's mostly the Mauna Kea Forest Restoration Project. And they're kind of like a research corporation they're like a DOFA subsidiary project. And they do a lot of planting. They plant like 40,000 trees a year up in Palila habitat.